Hello, anybody here? No, I'm just talking to. We are ready to begin. Parshas, Parshas Yisro. This week's Parsha is Parshas Yisro. Really, the Parsha really has nothing to do with what we're about to talk about. But I thought it was an interesting topic. If you take a look in our podcast in episode number 128, we said the following. We said that it says in this week's Parsha, it says, Kabed es avicha v'yasimecha, you have to honor your parents. We know this. We also Parshas Vayeschanan. And Rashi says in Parshas Vayeschanan that if our parents tell us not to keep the Torah, then we don't have to listen to them because they are also commanded to keep the Torah. So the example that we gave in that episode is that we said that we all know that we have the Avelis, we have the mourning period for a deceased for 7 days and 30 days. The main distinctions are 7 days and 30 days. So we said that if the parents say that we don't want you, our children, to keep Avelis, we don't want you to sit in Avelis for us for 7 days, 30 days. The din is, we said that we don't have to listen to the parents because that's the Torah. The Torah requires that. The Torah requires that we should sit in Avelis for the deceased, especially our parents, 7 days and 30 days at least. So you don't have to listen to that. So the question that we have this evening is, why do we have Avelis altogether, right? Avelis seems to indicate that it's a time of sadness, a period of sadness. And I've been looking in this book that we have mentioned in the past. It's called A Blaze in the Darkening Gloom. It is about Rabbi Meir Shapiro. And Rabbi Meir Shapiro, he was born in 1887 and he died in 1933. Rabbi Meir Milblin, he was the one who started Daf Yomi. He started the yeshiva called Yeshivas Chachmei Lublin. There's a whole story here, obviously a book, it's a whole story. But at the end of the story here, at the end of his story, there is a very interesting thing. So just this quick note about the Talmud. The author of the book, his name is Rabbi Yeshua Bammel, and he wrote this book a year after his Rebbe died, which is 1934, 1935. I don't know how long it took him to write the book, but he didn't publish it until I think the 1970s with Feldheim. This book is published by Feldheim, A Blaze in the Darkening Gloom. So his experience with Reb Meir Shapiro was fresh. It was a fresh experience with his Rebbe. However, the book itself was not written. The book itself was not written until 30, 40 years. The book was written a year afterwards, but the book was not published until 30, 40 years later. The circumstances of which, how that happened exactly, why he published it, you can read the introduction to this book or read the book altogether. It's a very interesting book. But here, the circumstances of his death are extremely interesting. And here we have, towards the end of the book, I'd like to read some of the excerpts of the book, page 365. It says like this: when the transfer was accomplished, he asked for a change into clean undershirt. Reb Meir Shapiro was dying. He asked for a clean undershirt and fresh talis cotton, a small talis, four-cornered garment with tzitzis, ritual fringes at the corners. Needless to say, his wishes were carried out, but then his wife, the Rabbanis, noticed a change in his countenance, and she began weeping emotionally. Rabbi Meir did his best to calm her as he wrote the message. Now, listen to this. He wrote the message on a piece of paper. Obviously, he was having trouble talking because he was dying. He was on his figurative deathbed. He wrote the following words, quote, now the true simcha begins, unquote. The true happiness begins. In a broken, barely legible scroll, he wrote, Drinked al lechayim. All of you drink al lechayim, quote unquote. Everybody that was present, he asked them all to drink al lechayim, like we do at a simcha, like we do at a chasana. An offer of any time we have an opportunity, we drink a l'chaim. He told everybody should drink a l'chaim. Some liquor was poured out into tiny glasses, and all who were there drank and wished l'chaim, quote unquote, to life. Then he shook hands with them all. He shook hands with everybody that was present, one by one, holding one's hand in his for a long time. And now he gave his instruction, Machta Rikud. He said, quote, make a little Hasidic dance to the words, B'cha batachnu avoseinu. And you, our fathers, trusted. They trusted and you rescued them. This is a pasuk in Tehillim 22:5. His wishes were obeyed. They joined hands, put hands on shoulders, and lifted their feet in rhythm as they sang the holy words to the melody they knew so well, the melody which he himself had composed. So on his deathbed here, all the people that were present drank a l'chaim, wished everybody a l'chaim. They started to dance at his command, holding hands to a song that he composed. How many times they had sung it in the past, when the lovely inspired nigun could bring its cheer to their hearts. Now they glanced at him as they danced by, joined in their circle, and they saw how extinguished his eyes were. The light gone out of them, how sallow his complexion, how the tears kept falling and falling without a stop. And yet they had to dance. The Rav had ordered them. Where are the words to describe the infinite tragedy of that scene, the rhythmic motions of life and death, the last Hasidic dance that he would see on this earth? It was clear the end was approaching. And that's how he died. The book continues. That's how he died. So, Rav Meir Shapiro, I mean, according to this, right, it's a simcha. When somebody dies, we should celebrate. Then why do we have Avelos for? Why do we have mourning for, if that's true? And why should we celebrate? I'm not sure if I remember where I saw this. Maybe I saw this in the Gesher HaChaim in volume 3. Maybe I saw this. But yeah, it makes sense. Or maybe I saw it in maybe a Musar Sefer. I don't remember. Sorry, I didn't look it up. But yeah, it makes sense. A person is born. They're a child. Their whole life is in front of them. Who knows what stumbling blocks are in their future? Who knows what damage what havoc they can wreak? The whole world is open in front of them. And the dangers, as we know, are many. Very easy it is to make the wrong decisions, to slip and fall, to hurt others, and to hurt the world. But a person who lives a full life, has students, Talmidim, a yeshiva, has accomplished so much, and now they're passing away. That's it. They've used their potential. They have lived a constructive life as a citizen of the world and a person who serves Hashem. They've done everything they could. And so therefore the birth we should be sitting in mourning when a person is born, because we should be biting our nails, nervous with trepidation of what they may do, what may happen to them. But when a person dies, we should celebrate, because now they have finished, they have completed. They have completed their race, they have completed their book, they have completed their project with success. And yet we do the opposite. We celebrate when the baby is born, make a bris milah, make a party, sudas mitzvah, and we mourn when a person dies. unless we're the students of Rameir Shapiro. If we're the students of Rameir Shapiro, then we make a lachayim, and we make a rikud, we make a dance, and we sing songs as he dies, as his neshama leaves his body. So the question is, why do we have shloshim? Why do we have shiva? Why do we have such a thing? It should be the opposite. This question is asked from the Alter of Kelm. The Alter of Kelm asked this question. I'd like to read some of it also. Read this too. The Alter of Kelm again is found in the Sefer Chochma Umusar, first volume, number 18, which of course spells Chai. This is the way to remember this piece. It's number 18. It spells Chai. And he says like this, Hine Yodua. He asks the question that we just asked. He asks, Hine Yodua ki olam hazeh doime leprasdor b'fnei olam haba. We know the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos. The Mishnah says in chapter 4, Mishnah number 15, it says that this world, as we've discussed a few weeks ago, this world is similar to a foyer that leads into the hall. This world is the foyer into the hall, which is olam haba. Right? So v'im kain, ikar yaso la'olam lehechen atzmi la'olam shekul tov. The whole purpose why we are here in this world is to prepare ourselves for the world to come. Umiyato. So then, if that's true, lama anurayim. Why is it that we have from experience that we see ki apei roiv ki shal the mace when a person dies? Nechshav likroivoy ki ilu nevad min arlam. We consider as if that person is lost forever. They are gone from existence, from reality. Why is that? Isn't the opposite? The person has gone to the world of resting. He's accomplished. He's passed through the foyer. Now he is in the hall. It's the Alter from Kelm is asking a question. So says the Alter Kelm, maybe you'll say to me, maybe you'll say, maybe you'll say, Misabel Allah, the reason why we mourn is maybe the person didn't accomplish their potential. They didn't fulfill what they're supposed to do. Maybe that's why we're mourning. We say, Nebuch, person didn't do what they were supposed to do. They died a loser. That's why we're mourning, because the person is a loser. Says the Alter of Kelm, that can't be true. Because if that's true, Atu hu Rachman Yoiser Mimelach Reife Neman V'Rachman Yisbarach. What, are we more merciful than Hashem, who's the ultimate person, who's the most merciful? Is it? Are we being more merciful? I understand this is that the Alter is saying, are we showing more mercy than Hashem? Hashem is the one who shows the ultimate mercy. Nobody's perfect. Of course they're going to Olam Haba. Of course they're going to the world to come. They're transferring, going from the place. Now this I do remember, like we said in the Gesher HaChaim, says in volume 3, he says that the baby when he's born, when there's two twins in the mother's womb. Remember the whole mashal we gave you, these two twins in the mother's womb, and one comes out from the womb, and the one that's left thinks that he's dead, left forever. He doesn't realize that he was born. So why are we mourning? It must be, and listen to these words carefully, the Alter from Kelm. It must be the reason why we're mourning is because deep down in our recesses of our hearts, we question that maybe, just maybe, that person is lost forever. They have died and they have ceased to exist. And we're sad because we know, or that we think, that they're never ever coming back. They never ever will exist. They are now a memory. They're lost. That's what it must be. Says the Alter from Kelm, that's not true. We may think that, but that's not true because we know in our minds, we know in our seichel that's not true. Everything that we learn, everything we understand, we just quoted the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos, everything that we just did. We know in our seichel that's not true. We know in our seichel that's not true. We know that a person, we of course we believe, we even believe it. We believe in the hasharas hanefesh. We believe in the soul surviving after death. We believe in olam haba. We read the Mishnah in Pirkei Avos that says that this world is a foyer to the world to come without even a blink, without even a second thought. We don't challenge the Mishnah and say, no, it's not true. We read the Mishnah and then we go to the next Mishnah. We understand that this is true. Emotionally, though, maybe our emotions don't understand it 100%. And that, he says, requires, and we're going to soon see, that requires emunah. But we'll discuss that. That requires belief. But the question is, okay, well, you can't have it both ways. If it's true that the person is going to the next world, then why are we mourning? If we say that we're mourning because the person is lost forever, and now we're sad because the person is gone, then that's why we're mourning. But if we say that the person is not gone and they just went into a different reality, they just went through a passageway, then why are we mourning? Then why are we mourning? Well, what are we mourning for? So on this, he says like this. He gives two reasons. Very interesting. He says like this. The fact that the Torah requires that we should mourn. Why? Why are we mourning? We shouldn't be mourning. This is the question of the night. The only reason why is for the living to be inspired to do tshuva. How is that? We'll see the following, like this. There's a Gemara in Shabbos. Says the Gemara in Shabbos on page 1068. Starts on 105b. The Gemara says like this. If you have a group, let's say a family, and somebody dies in the family. If a person dies in the family, everybody in the family should be worried that they're going to die also. If one person in the family dies, everybody should be worried. Now, I was always thinking, we always learned this Gemara, we always said the pshat is that everybody in the family is from the same mazel. Family people are related. There's a spiritual connection. And if there's a break in the spirituality, then everybody's going to be suffering that break. The Alter Kelm is not learning like that. He's learning a different thing. He's learning that maybe there's no relationship between the family on a spiritual level. Maybe not. But Kimosha Amar Admor Zal, he says, my Rebbe said, which I think Rabbi Yisro Salanter, Mishpetei Hashem Emes Tzadku Yachtov. We know the famous pasuk in Tehillim 19:10 that the laws of Hashem are true. Tzadku Yachtov. They all make sense. What does this pasuk mean? It means the following. And if you think about it, what this pasuk is telling is 100% true. The pasuk is saying like this: Ki midas basav adam. In a regular court that meets out the death penalty, somebody committed a murder and they get the death penalty, they die. Okay. So what happens? What happens if that person, that murderer, who's getting the death penalty, has a mother who's a tzaddikus? He has a mother who's righteous. Does she deserve to suffer the pain of her son's death, early demise, of his execution? Maybe. Maybe not. The regular courts in the world, if people don't care, this person is obligating the death penalty, you give the death penalty. Lethal injection, electrocution. Now the DOJ allows firing squad. You give us firing squad. That's now legal in the United States to give a firing squad. That's it. The mother's going to suffer. The brother's going to suffer. The grandmother's going to suffer. The government doesn't care. This guy's obligated to the death penalty. He's got to get his. Justice has to be done and finished. Says the Alter from Kel, Mashiach came either Sakadosh Baruch Hu, the Rabbanu Shalom is not. The master of the universe is not like that. If the mother does not deserve that her son should be executed by a firing squad for committing murder, then he will not die because she doesn't deserve it. The din, the judgment is for everybody. Mishpatei Hashem emes, the laws of Hashem are true. Tzadku yachtav, they make sense together. Everybody suffers together. Ki achrei shu lo chata, the mother, since she never sinned, she's a tzadekis me'akiv aparon shel achayev. She hinders, she saves her son from being executed, from dying a death because he's obligated to the death penalty. She saves him. However, what happens if he dies and she doesn't save him? When he dies and she doesn't save him, it's because she must have some kind of sin. That for that she deserves the pain of him dying. And she can't save him. And therefore she deserves to suffer the pain of her son dying. Everybody in the family has to ask, why did this person in our family, why did they die? Everybody in the family has to ask that question. We didn't stop it. Our actions, our character were not enough to stop Hashem from doing it. Then that's how they do tshuva. And that awakens a person to tshuva. So this is the explanation of the Gemara. If you have a chabur, you have a group of people, you have a family, and somebody dies in the family, everybody should be worried. Why? Because they're suffering now also. And that means that the Rabbanan Shalom has decided that they should suffer the pain of their relative dying. And why should they suffer the pain of their relative dying? Must be they did something wrong. They did something wrong, they have to do tshuva. So the reason why we mourn for a relative is not because we're sad that they're lost forever, because they're not lost forever. The reason why we mourn is that we should be inspired to ask ourselves, why did somebody in our family die? It's because we weren't able to stop it. And then we should be inspired to do tshuva. That's the reason why we mourn, says the Alter. You hear, David, what we're saying? Yeah? Yeah, what's the question?
Can we do tshuva before the person dies?
You could do, well, if you did tshuva, then they wouldn't have died. If you did tshuva before the person died, then they wouldn't, maybe, no, well, maybe they still die, because it may be not you. You don't know if it's you. Maybe it's somebody else in the family. Or maybe it's somebody else that didn't stop it. Maybe it requires, maybe let's say there's 5 people in the family. Maybe it requires 4 people to stop it, and only 3 were able to stop it, so that's not enough. Because the 4th person, you don't know if it's you or somebody else. You have no idea. You have no idea. So not that there's a spiritual connection in the family. It's that in the circle around, because you know this person and you're going to suffer, that means that it has to be adjudicated in the court above. That everybody that's involved, the example that we once gave. Let's say a person decides he's going to blow up an airplane. He's going to take an airplane, he's going to fly it into the towers. It's going to kill 2,000, 3,000 people. It's going to kill everybody on the plane. Do these people deserve to die? Do every single one of their relatives, their mother, their father, their brothers, their co-workers deserve to have the pain of them dying? By the Rabbanan Shalom, he has to decide that. By Hashem, there's no such thing is that you happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. No, Hashem has to adjudicate every single situation, every person that's connected to every one of these people. And it has to be decided that every one of these people somehow need to feel the pain of every one of these people on the plane that died. Same thing. No different about it. You hear what we're saying? And therefore the murderer also has to be successful in carrying out the murder of all these people. Because they're open to this danger. That's why we mourn. Not because we're sad that the person's lost forever. Second reason, says the author, like this. There is also another matter, and that is the empathy that we have to feel for the deceased. We have to carry the yoke. We spoke about carrying the yoke together with somebody else. You know, when somebody else is carrying a yoke, they come out a safe way. You know, before, I guess now it doesn't matter anymore because they carry it out for you. But before they had the carts, you could take them outside. They come out a safe way. They're carrying a lot of heavy bags. And you say they're carrying the bag, they're carrying the yoke. So how you empathize with the person's pain, you say to them, can I carry some of the bags with you? So now they're carrying 2 bags, you carrying 2 bags. You got the milk, they got the paper goods. No, you have, everybody's got a milk in their bags, right? Now you know how they feel. You're carrying the bags, they're heavy, it's hot outside, Phoenix, 100 and zillion degrees outside. You're hot, you're carrying, now you know how they feel when they're carrying the bags. That's noisa ball, it's carrying together, but there's also an union of noisa ball carrying together with the deceased. What's that? V'yisoyres hatshuva, and awaken hatshuva biash ba'avur hames, for the deceased. Yekol onsho shalames. We have the capacity that if we suffer together with the deceased, even though they're deceased, but we suffer with the deceased together of any pain that they're feeling, of any tribulations that they're going through, then we're carrying it together. We're lifting some of their burden. We're lifting some of their suffering. We have the ability to pick up some of the bags and carry them for them. When we suffer together with them. Let's forget about the first reason for a minute, right? And let's say you didn't deserve, a person who's left alive, the family member, didn't deserve to suffer as a result of this person died. Let's just say, for argument's sake. And now the deceased has died. Now the person who is left alive puts themselves through suffering. Now the suffering is being spread out. The weight of the suffering of the deceased is being spread out through the ones who are alive. We're carrying the bags together. We're carrying the weight together with the deceased. That makes the deceased suffer less. We have the ability to make them suffer less if we suffer together with them. Because there's no such person who is righteous that never does anything wrong. There's no such thing. So always a deceased is going to suffer, every one of us. And that's what Rabbi Akiva told Rabbi Eliezer. When Rabbi Eliezer said to him, Akiva, did I klum hisarti klum Torah? Did I not keep any of the Torah? Rabbi Akiva said to him, yes, Rabbi, you kept all of the Torah, but there's a pasuk in Ecclesiastes that says, there's no person in the world that doesn't do good and doesn't suffer. Sanhedrin 101. Re'eh, says the author of Kelm. Ma madregas Rabbi Eliezer. She'omer al atzmo kach. Rabbi Eliezer said on himself, V'im kol titkosai. With Rabbi Eliezer said himself, I have no reason why I have not done anything wrong ever. And Rabbi Akiva said to him, maybe. Hey, Shivla Rabbi Akiva and the Seinu Rabbeinu, but our Rebbe taught us, referring to him in third person. There's no person that doesn't do something wrong. Vishasak Rabbi Eliezer was quiet. My Yomru Kol Oilam. If Rabbi Eliezer could say this, then everybody can say this. Therefore, we have the laws of mourning. Lahakil alames, to make it easier for the deceased. The Shiva Vishloishim, keeping the 7 days of mourning, the 30 days of mourning. Asher Az Toikiv Adin Yoiser, because then the strength of the judgment is more. Zehu be'emes tam hamitzvah. This is truthfully the reason of the mitzvah of mourning. The reason for the mitzvah of mourning is li'tztair al hames. It's for us to feel pain on the deceased, not because they're gone, but in order to carry the burden together with them. Not like usual regular people. They act as if the person is lost forever. Not like that. We should not act like that. Why? Because he says, and listen to these words, a real rough, but not really rough, because we're already accustomed to it. We're used to this. He says, this is a denial of the Ribbon Shalom, a little bit. This is like denying Hashem. How could a person think that the deceased is lost forever? Well, there's no Ribbon Shalom, there's no God. How could a person be lost forever? There's a Ribbon Shalom, there's a master of the universe. We know that. So how could we think that? We shouldn't think that. Where is the justice? Where are Hashem's laws? He says, "V'amar hafilosopha yidua ha'aravi." The famous, I don't know who this famous Arab philosopher is, I have no idea. Famous Arab philosopher said, "Ha'adam ba'olam hazeh ki yashen." A person in this world is like he's sleeping. V'la'achar misu ar, and after they die, they're awake. V'amar Alexander Mukton, he went Shibola Medina, he went to a country, he saw that they had graves next to their houses. Visholam Mazois, he said, why are you making graves next to your houses? Put them in the graveyard. You guys are Meshega. And they said to him, Etzlachem chay adam kishu begufoi. By you, a person is alive when he's in the body. V'akfuru kishu ba'aretz, and the burial is when he's in the land. By us, it's the opposite. When he's in his body, he's buried. And the world of clarity is dark by him. When he's out of the body, that's when he's not buried. And that's when he's awake by us. That's why we have the graves next to the houses. And that's what it says in the Mishnah Pirkei Avos, says the author of Kian. The way of the Torah is not like this. Sorry, the opposite. The way of the Torah is not like this. The way of the Torah is like we're saying. We say that in this world it's good to do tshuva. We say, what does the Mishnah say? It's better, a moment of doing tshuva and studying Torah is better in this world than the entire world to come. That seems to be the opposite of everything we just said. He says, however, we do see the belief in the fact that the soul endures, etc. This, he says, requires emunah. It requires us to strengthen ourselves in the belief in God and that there's justice in the world. So that's the second reason of why we have mourning. The second reason why we have mourning is to share in the pain of the deceased. And when we share in the pain of the deceased, then we alleviate some of the pain of the deceased that they feel as a result of their death. So what's the question that we asked in the beginning? The question that we asked is, should we make a rikud? Should we make a dance when somebody dies? Make a l'chaim as they're dying on their deathbed? Should we sing a song? Should we be happy? And should we mourn when a baby is born at a bris? Should we do that? Was Meir Shapiro right? And the answer is, he's right. Ramesh Shapiro was right. When he told his students that they should dance as he was dying, that they should make a l'chaim and sing, he was right. Because he was telling his students, I've done what I'm supposed to do. I've accomplished in my life. And now I go to the Rabbanu Shalom to reap the rewards of my actions. But that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to celebrate. Because now a person is going to be awake in the world to come, in Olam Haba. But what can we do? The Torah says not like that. The Torah says we mourn. There's a din. If it wasn't for our law, a din, that we should mourn, then we wouldn't be mourning. But there's a din that we should mourn. So we mourn because the Torah said so. Really, it shouldn't be. But the Torah says, so what can we do? And why does the Torah say that we should mourn? The Torah says we should mourn because why is this person dead? We should think to ourselves that we weren't able to stop their death, even though we know them. Maybe we have to do tshuva. Another reason why we should mourn is because probably that person is suffering for something that they did, because there's nobody that doesn't do anything wrong. And we should share in that pain so that they alleviate their pain. That's the reason why we should do it. But to chas v'shalom, to think that we're mourning because they're lost forever, that is not a possibility. That is not even on the table. That's not something that we can even entertain. That's not even a Jewish thing. Because when if we make that statement in our head, if we go there, that the person is lost forever, then chas v'shalom, it's like denying of Hashem's existence. It's denying His judgment. It's denying His laws. How can we do such a thing? That's the message that I wanted to share with everybody this evening. You hear? All right. So I guess we'll conclude here with Shabbos. All right. You guys have any questions?
So here's the interesting part for me and my best girlfriend.
Laura left. I don't know what happened to her.